Previously, we've had a few theories on who XAL'tath is, but a recent official Blizzard interview gave us some groundbreaking info that kinda went under the radar. She is not an old god, she is older than the old gods, she doesn't like the old gods, and she serves the Void Lords. With this new info, when we look back at some older whispers, things really start to get mind-boggling. People are saying XAL'tath could be the Void version of Azeroth and Avatar, but what if she is a Void Titan of another planet? Maybe that planet that Sargeras gets split in half in the past and he didn't realize she managed to escape. I know, quite a bit of crazy information, but let's analyze some of the whispers, this new interview, what they said, as things are even crazier than they appear. Did you know you can play WoW directly on your phone? Well, with this video sponsor, awesome, you can control your PC with your phone completely free, and it is available for Windows, iOS, and Android. It is super easy to use my link to download it, get the phone and the PC app, and just connect it. The free version is powerful as you can control your desktop, transfer files, but the game version is where it is at. It has custom keyboards for various games such as Warcraft, and you can enjoy AFK gaming anytime, anywhere with actual game sound. Make sure to use my code DORON to get 7 days completely free to try it out, only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart plug to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and Game versions. Check out awesome. XAL'tath may actually be one of the most interesting villains that Blizzard has been doing, but I gotta say, I'm a little bit worried that it could turn out to be a fluke, like a lot of the WoW villains in the past, as in us expecting so much more than we're going to get in the end in a single patch. But man, do we have some crazy mysteries and hints going around that it really starts to get exciting. I've talked about this a bunch in the recent videos, and I don't really want to talk in circles, so I want to cover the newest interview and some of the more up-to-date information, so that we can really start figuring out what the hell is even going on, as newer XAL'tath speculation theories started going around after the War of the Within cinematic, and that she could be the avatar of Azeroth. So, long story short, you have seen XAL'tath in Legion. She was in the Dagger, then she was present in VFA, she managed to escape through an elf avatar. She still looks like an elf. We have seen her new form in the cinematic, which is how most of you see her, but keep in mind, XAL'tath could look like anything from a faceless one to a Void Lord to maybe something even more disgusting than a massive old god. So remember, she does not look like that elven form that is just a mask. She looks completely different, probably something a lot more sinister. Now, previously, based on the whispers, we've had two official theories going around. Either XAL'tath is the Claw of the Fallen Old God Yasharaj, or a weapon used for sacrifice, or she was that fifth defeated old god. The theories made sense, as we knew old gods had civil wars all the time, so the popular thinking was that she was defeated by the others and managed to somehow hold on Azeroth. However, based on this recent interview and developments, it turns out both of those theories may just be complete BS. The article we're talking about came in a German gaming website. However, this is an official advertisement, meaning Blizzard actually paid for this article to be released, meaning this obviously isn't some guy's speculation. Blizzard proofread this article and only released what they wanted us to know. Keep in mind, I'm reading this translated, so obviously some subtleties can be lost in translation, but let me really quickly summarize the gist of this information. She is an entity that is working directly with the Void. She was essentially like 99% confirmed to be older than the old gods, and essentially almost 99% confirmed that she isn't an old god. She cheered as we slay the old gods, and she really wants to undo the Titan influence and raise a new dark legacy that is in no way connected to the ancient Black Empire. Now, I know this isn't that crazy information, but essentially just blows both of our previous theories out of the water. She isn't an old god, she isn't the Claw of Yasharaj. So what even is XAL'tath? Now, as I thought about this and I started reading some of the old whispers back from Legion and VFA, it really started just blowing my mind when combining this with the new stuff, and not even like as in this is who she is, but like this goes way deeper than we thought. So initially, my thought was like, if she's not an old god, why exactly does she talk like an old god in so many whispers? Here, we got XAL'tath talking about us fighting old god minions. We may face some of my brethren in this conflict, a prospect that delights me. Here, she talks about corrupting Deathwing in the past. The fallen aspect Slayer is near. He was the strongest of them, yet the easiest one for us to corrupt. Then we got one of these random things. Though he is not one of our servants, he has heard our whispers. All of these would make it seem like she's an old god, like she talks about the old gods as her brethren. She says she corrupted Deathwing, like she participated in that, and refers to the old gods as us, and she also whispers, much like the old gods. Now, the interview said that she is older than them and is directly related to the Void. Could she be a Void Lord? Nope, because we got this whisper that kinda contradicts it. I long for the day our masters can truly pass into this realm. You have only seen fragments, shadows, the faintest of echoes. Ask the Ethereals what one of these manifestations are capable of. So, this essentially confirms that XAL'tath is under the Void Lords in the hierarchy, as she calls them masters, but she seems to be around the equal to the old gods, if not above them, but she isn't one and she is older than them. Now, before we get into what she could be, we also had some other interesting whispers from the past that shows us just how intelligent XAL'tath is. She is ancient, she knows the entire cosmological situation that we really don't. As Blizzard said in the interview, she wants to undo Titan influence. She's actually really dedicated to it, as dedicated as she is to corrupting Azeroth, and now we got a really quick throwback to Legion. So, back when we went to Argus with XAL'tath in hand, she says this: such potential here, but all of it wasted on a doomed crusade. So much effort, so much bluster, only to delay the inevitable victory of their betters. We can of course connect this with a whole bunch of other whispers, and there are like 10 of them, where she's just super condescending to demons for some reason, and the Legion, like she always calls them dumb brutes and on just a stupid and ridiculous mission. So obviously XAL'tath was aware what the true goal of Sargeras' crusade was, and keep in mind, I think there are things we don't know about yet that we're going to learn soon why Sargeras really stabbed Azeroth. I really don't think it is as straightforward as we thought, like she just wanted to kill the world soul. Also, when she says victory of their betters, it kinda appears like she's talking about us mortals, but it's more like she knows the Void will win in the end. Lastly, we got this super interesting whisper as we reach the seat of the Pantheon. Long have we sought entry into this realm. To think we have a mortal to thank for giving us our foothold. Your service will be remembered. Keep in mind, we sought entry. This definitely puts XAL'tath on the board as a big cosmological player, not just a local threat on Azeroth and just a simple agent with a mission to trigger some other big player. She's definitely in on things behind the scenes, bigger things, much bigger things. Lastly, we got this super interesting whisper talking about a Dark Naru. Now, this is a true beauty. At least one of the mortals in your midst can appreciate what it offers. The mortal she refers to here is Illyria, and I think this not only shows how connected she is to the Void, but also to that potential Naru that is going on with the war within. Like, there's something is definitely gonna happen with that Dark Naru and the new crystal. Additionally, in one quote, she calls Elune an upstart goddess, meaning that she must once again know some crazy cosmological ancient history that we don't, back when Elune wasn't a goddess. Now, before we go crazy here, as we really can get into speculation for like an hour here, there are in my opinion two interesting theories currently going on. One that recently started happening due to the War Between announcement and those identified World Soul Whispers we seen in the cinematic, and that is that XAL'tath may be an avatar of corrupted Azeroth. It does, in a way, make sense, but it also doesn't when you factor in some other things from this interview. However, it makes sense, like in their recent prophecies and lore talk about how the corruption was almost complete, the Void-infused Azeroth was stopped last minute by the Titans. Also, XAL'tath is a female, the World Soul seems to be a female, so it really could be possible that she is that Void version of Azeroth that is supposed to get fully empowered soon when the process is complete. Now, the reason it doesn't make sense is mainly the timeline, as they say that she's older than the old gods, and as we know, the old gods arrived to Azeroth to start this corruption process. So this Void version could only be created later, after they had almost finished the corruption. The only explanation I could see is that technically that is Azeroth, the world soul, and she is older than most things in the universe. However, other than this little bit, this actually lines up perfectly, as the world soul was supposed to be turned into a weapon for the Void so they can win this massive cosmological war. She would serve the Void Lords, they would be her masters, she would have vested interest in defeating other cosmological forces like the Titans, and she would think of it living as a joke, as the world soul is older than anything else. So I gotta say, this could actually be a genius thing. However, we got another interesting thought, another direction that Blizzard has kinda drawn us in. This has gone a little bit under the radar as there was an isolated interview, but around the start of Dragonflight, maybe a little bit before 10.1, Blizzard officially made some groundbreaking changes to the Old Gods, or hinted at some really groundbreaking changes. The Chronicle told us that these Old Gods were mere weapons just flung across the universe to corrupt world souls everywhere, and they're essentially mindless servants of the Void. However, Blizzard said that we shouldn't really think of them that way. The Void as a force is inherently chaotic, and they not only battle each other all the time, but they constantly change their plans on the fly. They very strongly hinted that the Old Gods may have rebelled against the original mission, against the Void Lords, started doing their own thing, and that the Black Empire might have been their way to empower themselves, not the Void Lords or the Void. So the Old Gods could have technically gone rogue. Now, if we take this into account, this in turn could make for a completely different identity for Xal'tath. I mean, check this out. She could be a backup weapon, a mediator of sorts. I mean, think about like a punitive expedition sent to Azeroth. She was supposed to get the Old Gods back in line to finish the actual Void Lord mission and to get rid of their own selfish plans, but it didn't really go well and she may have been defeated by them. Just think about it. Completely lines up. This might be why she cheered when the Old Gods were defeated. Like, if she was Azeroth and was ultimately created by Old God corruption, why would she cheer at their defeat when they're technically her creators? As this backup weapon, she would be around equal or stronger than the Old Gods, under the Void Lords, and older than the Old Gods. Think like how the Titans had Sargeras to deal with the dirty work, the really difficult work. Well, the Void Lords could have had Xal'tath like a Void Titan champion of sorts, so this could be like Sargeras' actual rival. I know, a little bit crazy, but what if Xal'tath was a Void Titan like what Azeroth is supposed to become, but from another world, a weaker one? I know, tinfoil hat time, but remember when that one world got entirely corrupted and infested by the Old Gods and Sargeras came in and just split it in half? Well, what if Xal'tath was born from that and already went away, while Sargeras just destroyed the husk, like the shell of that entire planet? I can't say it would be impossible. Also, the biggest problem we have right now is that we are basing like 90% of all our cosmological lore knowledge based on the Chronicle that Blizzard obviously has retconned, as you know, obviously the Titans are lying, so really something totally different could be happening that no one could really guess without correct information. What if the Old Gods are not even created by the Void Lords? What if their goal wasn't even to corrupt Azeroth or maybe to turn it into something entirely different? The entire line of thinking we have from the Chronicle about the Void Titan is from a Titan perspective, because that is what they want to do with Azeroth, so naturally they would think others want to do the exact same thing. What if the Void just wants to destroy Azeroth, much like Sargeras, or maybe something even crazier is going on? Nonetheless, I think this Xal'tath story could turn out to be one of the best things they had ever done, if pulled right. Things are optimistic at the moment, with some changes to the structures as Blizzard, but as you may know, sometimes with the lore, it can be a little hard to get your hopes up. It definitely wouldn't be out of character for Blizzard to just forget they even wrote these whispers back at Legion, to just contradict themselves and doing something entirely different. However, I think in War Within, we are in for some really crazy times. Thank you for watching, and check out our new to the humans coming in the War Within by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.